Regarding the family at the time, Brian's wife and his dad and everyone else, is there any sort of record or any interviews or anything you've managed to dig up about how they felt about it at the time?
Well, Marilyn was by all accounts tremendously supportive of whatever Brian did.
Okay.
Um, Brian's dad, Murray, was not.
Mm,
And he was his abusiveness did not end with Brian moving out of the house because he was still the manager and the publisher. It didn't end with him being fired as the manager because he was still the publisher. We can hear it on the Help Me
yeah.
Murray tape.
Yeah.
You can read it in letters he wrote to them. Um,
Mm,
you can the stories of, I mean, that Mark Volman told me about, Murray coming to the house. I want all these people out of here. I want all these people out of there. And it's Brian's house. I want all of get your crazy drug friends out of here.
oh,
And by all accounts, Murray hired a private detective to
oh, yeah.
follow Brian
Yeah.
to see where he was getting drugs. Um,
Mm,
so it's it's not a pretty story.
no, for sure. But what about the question I've got actually is the Heroes and Villains single, the timing of that release? How did the timing and reception, was that difficult for Brian? Because obviously everyone was waiting for the single. And then there was some sort of, he took it to the radio station and it was sort of like, he had the date and all of that. And it went all, the reception was a little bit strange, wasn't it? Did you think that affected him a lot?
Well, the fact that it wasn't a big hit certainly was wasn't helpful, to say the least. Um, but but by the time of the release of the Heroes and Villains single, um, it wasn't that he had given up on Smile, but things were really going downhill.
Mm,
And the single, as Van Dyke Parks recalls, when he heard it on the radio,
yeah.
he was staggered, uh, and not in a good way, by what he was hearing. It was like, this isn't the song we had been working on. This is not the record that Brian had been making. What is
Mm,
this?
mm,
So we were getting, with the single, we were getting watered down Smile.
watered down, yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a great shame, isn't it, really? A question about Derek Taylor. Derek Taylor was very, very much involved with the group and promoting. And did
Yes.
you think he helped Brian, or do you think he could have done more to help Brian? Do you think he might have been able to have somehow encouraged him to move forward with Smile?
I don't. Derek did a spectacular job, in repositioning the Beach Boys not as the fun in the sun,
Yeah,
girls and cars
yeah,
and surfboards group, as when he promoted Pet Sounds was the first thing he promoted, and then Good Vibrations. And as he said, promoting the Smile and Heroes and Villains, it was, when's it coming out?
yeah.
It was
Okay.
this endless question. So
Yeah,
he's now promoting something that doesn't have a release date.
yeah. Right, yeah.
And in terms of helping Brian, I think he was a great sounding board for Brian.
Okay.
The stories he and his widow Joan Taylor tell about Brian just showing up in the middle of the night
Yeah.
with acetates. Let me play you what I've been working on. you
Oh,
know,
it's wonderful.
it's everything about it is legendary and epic,
Yeah,
and I liken it all. Uh, the book feels to me like if you were sitting in the center of a room and there was 30 people around you, and each one of them told you a piece of the Smile story, and the next person would pick it up, and the next person would
Yeah.
pick it up, and maybe it would bounce back here and over there. So everyone has their point of view, has their version of the Smile story.
Okay.
And so by gathering it all together in the book, I've given as much of a historical living history picture as I think
Yes, you can.
one can do.
Yeah.
But again, as I say, without being there.
No,
Now, in
exactly.
2003, 2004, I was there.
You were there
So
quite.
so
Yeah,
so so
exactly.
I can tell that with authority.
First hand. Yeah, exactly. A lot of it is then hearsay. And yeah, it's I mean, people say, oh,
Well,
some
it's not hearsay. I
no,
mean, I'm talking to, I interviewed Derek Taylor.
sure,
I interviewed Joan. I interviewed Van Dyke
of course.
and the engineers and, and the studio musicians. So it's not
Well,
hearsay,
not
but
hearsay,
it's
no.
everybody saw it from a different point of
Different,
view.
yeah, yeah, different
That's
place.
why I likened it to a kaleidoscope. You're
Mm,
looking at it one way and then you
yeah,
see that and then you turn it. Oh, that's different. And then you keep turning. It's just, it's so hard to grasp on.
yeah,
People want the truth, and there's
yes.
more than one truth.
There's more than one truth. Okay. And a lot of people say, oh, Sergeant Pepper and everything else. But how ahead of its time was Smile? Or, how ahead would it have been ahead of its time, do you think?
Well, it was more than ahead of its time. It wasn't even of its time.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen to a piece like Our Prayer
Mm,
or Surfs Up,
yeah.
and it doesn't fit into
No.
anything other than is that Bach's latest piece?
Yeah.
Is that Beethoven, Mozart? Take your pick. I'm not a smart classical person, but it does not sound like popular music.
Yeah. Yeah. And the lyrics, of course, with Van Dyke, that was a bit of a stumbling block in the end, wasn't it, with Mike Love not getting on with the lyrics? And do you think that wasn't a major stumbling block for Brian, or do you think he could have got over that one?
It sure seemed to be a big stumbling block.
Right.
Um, it's it he he needed unconditional support from the group.
Yeah. Okay.
And Mike,
And
it's not that Mike was wrong. Mike
no,
was the
he had a point.
onstage leader.
Sure.
So from his point of view, first of all, it's like he had been first replaced with Tony Escher and now Van Dyke.
Yeah. Right.
So hey, wait a second, what happened to
Mm,
me writing the songs? Well,
yeah.
Brian liked to
Understandable.
write with Brian liked to write with lots of people, whether it
Yeah.
was Bob Norberg or Gary Usher or Russ Titelman,
Yeah.
or by himself. Brian just liked to compose music and find the right words for them.
Yeah.
So at this point in his life and career, he felt that Tony and Van Dyke were the right people for that.
Okay.
So that obviously wouldn't sit well with Mike.
Okay.
But so now Mike is the front man for the Beach Boys when they're doing their in the era when they're doing 25-minute concerts, say. And so they're doing fun, 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 and I get around and California Girls and Help Me Rhonda and Good Vibrations, which he wrote the lyric for. Now he's going to do Cabanescence.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to work from his
Yeah.
point of view, but
Good
they
point.
didn't have to. It's not like they had to do 6 songs from Smile. They only had to do one song from
Yeah.
Smile,
Sure. Sure.
and
True.
and 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 so I think it got blown up out of proportion, and
Okay.
you'd have to ask Mike to go deep into his heart. What was it about Smile that he couldn't get behind 100%?
Okay. Okay. Um, there's all sorts of things in the book about lyrics that all of a sudden, that disappeared. And also people have asked about, are there unheard portions of Smile still out there? largely unheard by the majority of us, do you think? Little
I
clip, little bits.
I would be surprised. I mean, I had nothing to do with the Beach Boys Smile
No,
Sessions box set,
sure.
but I'd be surprised if if after Mark mined the vaults that there's anything of substance left. Darian had done that in 2003,
Yeah,
2004.
yeah.
And I asked him, when you heard the Smile Sessions, was there anything there that you felt should have been part of Brian Wilson Presents Smile? And he said no.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair enough. And another question is, when do you think Brian was comfortable to start talking about it? Or did he never really?
Well,
He had his
well,
moment.
there was certainly a moment, but
Yeah.
um, you know, we had done the Good Vibrations box set in '93, and after that, I had written on a bunch of index cards the names of every Smile title, and we
Okay.
had tried to sequence it up on the big kitchen table in his
Yeah,
house
I remember
up
that.
in
Yeah.
Mulholland Estates,
Yeah.
and what was needed was what Darian said. You needed to load it into a laptop and move things around so you could hear it, not
Yeah.
just the titles. That
Sure.
that didn't work. So Brian was comfortable in private talking about it. It was being interviewed about it endlessly that didn't work for him. And right
Okay.
up until the world premiere in London at the Royal Festival Hall, this was not a happy subject. He was scared to death. He knew how great it was,
Mm.
but imagine on the second day of rehearsals, he leaves rehearsals and drives himself to the emergency room.
Yeah.
So
That,
this was really quite a. He knew he had to do it. He said that a number of times. I have to do this.
yeah. Emotional security is something that comes up in your book a heck of a lot. And he'd obviously lost the emotional security at some stage and probably in sometime in 67. When do you think he first started getting his emotional security back?
Well, he might have lost it when he was 4 years old.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's I'm not an expert in psychology,
No, yeah, sure.
uh, but from all accounts, there was some level of abusiveness in the house, verbal, emotional, and physical.
Okay.
Um, you know, one could, if one is as sensitive as Brian is, a raised hand could have just as much impact as a slap.
Right.
So,
Right.
so there was, as far as I can tell, a lack of emotional security, but he overcame it. And then,
Mm,
the Beach Boys had their enormous success, and
yeah.
that success gave him a different kind of security.
Yeah.
It gave him, tremendous confidence in what he was doing.
Yeah.
But when he regained his emotional security, I had never even heard the phrase before until he told it. I was at an interview he was doing circa 1995, when he was promoting Orange Crate art as well as the Don Was documentary.
Mm,
And he was asked, so why are you able to do this now? And he said, I have emotional security. And by that he was referring to Melinda. And so, as well as his friends who were around, um, so there was nobody saying to Brian, when's the next single? When's the next album? He just could be himself
yeah. Yeah.
and work if and when he wanted to.
Those key people, Melinda obviously was number one, but I mean, you're very much a part of that. Who would you say would be his closest friends as well at the time to give him that comfort and that
Well,
system?
Gloria Ramos, who had been um, watching over Brian going back into the 1980s, and is still at the house with the children.
Oh,
uh,
wow.
is the real unsung hero in all of this.
Yeah. Okay.
She really loves and loved Brian in a way that is very, very special. Um, I don't know how much more he needed. I mean, we would go out to dinner as couples, my late wife and Brian and Melinda, and we'd park in the parking lot and we'd walk into the restaurant, and Brian and Melinda would be in front of us holding hands. It was like going out on dates with
Wow.
teenagers,
Incredible.
you
Yeah.
know,
Lovely.
and so he was just he had gotten control of his life back.
Okay.
So he could call me and say, "Let's go out to dinner."
Lovely.
And I could pick him up and we'd drive to the restaurant and he'd have the oldies station on K Earth and we'd be singing along what he called casual singing.
Okay.
Now, what could be cooler than singing along to the radio with Brian
Oh
Wilson? You
my
know,
goodness me.
it's unbelievable.
And you've said, oh, well, we're really jumping around a bit, but you did say somewhere in the book, maybe near the end, probably, that it was the greatest thing you've done ever. Not regarding relationships with marrying and everything, but the greatest thing you've ever done in your life. Meeting Brian and helping him get Smile out to us all. And then,
Well, I don't remember writing it, but I can't disagree with it. Um,
yeah, I think you did.
it's such an honor and a privilege to be friends with an artist
Yeah,
like Brian, and then to help him overcome, this giant weight on his back,
yeah,
um, and then to see the joy he felt. I mean, when he came back from the first Smile tour in 2004. I was in London for the first 6 shows at the Royal Festival Hall, and then he went on and did a few more dates. But I had to get back to LA to start working on Beautiful Dreamer
of course, yeah,
because we now had our ending. We knew how the film would end.
yeah, wonderful.
Uh, and the day he got back, he called. He says, "You have to come over tomorrow. We have to do an interview." And 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 it was like, he wants to do an interview. I mean, it's like he wants to do an interview because doing interviews up till then were like it was an arm twist.
Yeah,
And so I went over there with I think it was James Mathers had the camera, and I was like, "What's up?" He says, "David, you're not going to believe it. The Smile shows got better and better every night." And I said, "Well, how did they get better?" And he looked at me like I was an idiot. He says, "Well, the playing got better, the singing got better, the audiences got better. It was just goes better." And he said, "For the first time in my career, I can't wait to get back on the road again." That's how much playing Brian Wilson Presents Smile had changed him from somebody who dreaded touring to somebody who couldn't wait to tour.
a true transformative effect on him, transformed him.
Well, as he said, it was what's the quote on the back of the book? Pick up, reach behind you and pick up the book. Thank you. I don't have it at hand. The most cathartic experience of my life, right at the top. The most cathartic
Yes,
experience of my
indeed,
life.
exactly that in red. That's the one in red. Yeah, for
And
sure.
so
The most cathartic. It's like wonderful. What? Yeah,
I mean, I
mind
don't,
blowing.
I, so for all of us to have played a role,
Yeah,
big or small, in this catharsis.
yeah,
And then he toured the world with and he recorded it, which we never expected. And so
no,
it was really joyous.
yeah, yeah. And those, I think we went twice to the Royal Festival Hall, and I cried. I, I was healed. It healed me. And I think there's a book, there's a chapter in your book about someone who was very much healed by the music, and the people you're interviewing for Beautiful Dreamer, the amount of people who are coming out saying, I'm like, I'm a different person. This has changed me. This has healed me. I mean,
Well, yeah,
and
perhaps
20
my
years on,
favorite.
and I think 20 years on, I think it can still do the same thing. Do you think? Sure, it can.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's there's in Beautiful Dreamer, I forget who it is, but he says, "I'm going to have my life before smile and my
Yeah,
life after smile."
yeah, I remember.
And
Yeah.
it was that gave me the idea to have an entire chapter in the book of people's
Mm.
recollections 20 years later of what it had
Yeah.
been like to be
Yeah.
at the Royal Festival Hall. Just an entire chapter.
Mm.
And you just get goosebumps reading people's
Oh,
memories. It's just
totally.
wonderful.
Wonderful. And I've been playing the music, been playing the Smile CD and Brian's CD and seeing the film again. My goodness, you go through exactly the same emotions. Reading the book, the thing builds. You can feel everything building, from them sitting and recording the sessions, the vocal sessions in Brian's home. Then he had to shoot out the hospital. Then he slowly started contributing, and you can feel that emotional energy.
Thank you. One of the biggest surprises for me in the book was, and when you do a book, goodness knows how many times you're reading it and rereading it and
Boy,
rewriting it and
boy, yeah,
changing it and fixing things. But every time I read it, the build up to the Royal Festival Hall shows had a sense of, well, what's going to happen? Is he going
yeah,
to go on stage?
yeah,
And well, it's like, why do I feel that way when we know it's the 20th anniversary that
yeah,
we're celebrating in the book? And what I came to realize, I think, is that the interviews I did with the band members and
for sure,
everybody
for
was
sure.
before the world premiere. So there was this sense of, is he going to go up on the stage or not?
Mm, yeah, definitely. And the band, all the interviews were fantastic. And again, I think you said about Dominoes, without the band and without Darian, it couldn't have been done, could it?
No, no, no. The band's sensitivity. I mean, we start with the Wonderments,
Wonderments, yeah,
um, who formed the heart of the band, if you will, when he first started touring. And one of the things that the late Nick Walusko said that was so striking to me was it wasn't just about playing the right notes, but he wanted to know what guitar had been used on a session to get the exact right sound.
yeah,
And now let's also think for a second about something that this band did. So when Brian made records in the mid 60s, he had a group of musicians that he recorded the tracks with. And then he put the Beach Boys vocals on those tracks.
yeah,
Well, this band was doing both live. That goes to their dedication and their talent and their heart, and they were doing it with the exact feeling that he wanted infused in the music. And so, could it be any better?
no. And who has come close to that? I can't think of any artist, any band that has come close to that.
I, you know, I, McCartney and his band are pretty great at that. Um, you when you go to see Paul and he's doing Beatles songs, and the band is, uh, Brian and Rusty and Abe Laboriel Jr. and Wicks, they are pretty great. Now
Okay.
it's a different kind of thing
Yeah, for sure.
because um, your lead singer, not so much in the last couple of years, but the lead singer is Sir Paul McCartney, and he is, as they were taught to do in Germany, 60 years ago, mock show. he is a performer beyond performers. And
Okay.
Brian is the exact opposite.
He's the opposite. Yeah.
And so the band um, has to carry Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Going back to the spirituality, he said that music was God's voice. And do you think he felt that Smile was really a spiritual message, an explosion of spirituality for people to hear from God through Brian? Do you think he felt that?
Well, what I learned is not to argue with him.
Okay.
So if he said, "I'm writing a teenage symphony to God,"
Yeah.
who are we to argue?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You
And he
know,
did it. He did it, didn't he? He did it. He really did. That's what it was.
yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. Someone had asked, I forget who asked this question. What do you think you learned most about humanity and friendship from Brian?
it's a great question, really great question. What I learned about Brian is how much this is the triumph of the human spirit,
Okay,
the courage it took for him to do that
okay,
is indescribable.
yeah,
For him to be willing to pick up the pieces of his broken heart
yeah,
and this broken album and figure out a way to do it. So when he came off stage after the first show and he's exulting to Darian, we did it. We
yeah,
did it.
yeah.
You know, what could be more exciting? I get goosebumps just
I know. Oh, for
recounting that
sure,
story.
for sure.
So in terms of what it taught me is that nothing's impossible. I've been
Yeah,
teaching it at the Herb Alpert School of Music at UCLA since 2010. And whatever the course is, one of the things I teach my students is to follow your dreams
yeah,
because I've learned and I tell them my story. Um, if you don't follow your dreams, they can't come true.
absolutely right. Yeah, yeah. And if someone else has asked, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to a young Brian Wilson? And it's a bit of a strange question, but I don't know where you start with that one.
What year?
Yeah, quite. Yeah,
Um, you know, I've kind of come to the conclusion that everything happened the way it had to happen. It's not a happy conclusion. And the bigger part of that is that if he hadn't suffered the pain
mm,
that he did in his life,
yeah,
the music wouldn't have been infused with so much power and so much joy
yeah,
because he wouldn't have needed to do that.
yeah, yeah.
So these aren't pop ditties, as Lenny Waronker would say, the former president of Warner Brothers Records.
Mm,
These are songs, these compositions are otherworldly
yeah,
because
absolutely.
Brian had to go to that other world to survive.
Right.
So when he wrote Love and Mercy is what you need tonight, he's singing it to himself.
Yeah,
That's what he needed.
yeah,
When he's coming up with good vibrations, it's what he needs. And because he needs it so desperately, the record has so much power.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the film, the Beautiful Dreamer film, was a wonderful opportunity for you, wasn't it? Incredible. Uh, and
Yeah.
you've still got lots of it on the shelf, haven't you? Bits and bobs, interviews, and goodness knows how many reels of film. And I mean, what's gonna happen to that lot, David, do you think?
Well, I hope if your viewers are into literature, the world premiere concert is kind of the Moby Dick of my career, if you will. That's what
Okay.
I want to get that out. I want people to be able to see that and experience it because it's something very, very different than the album. There's so much
Yeah.
tension beforehand and
Oh, absolutely.
so much joy and the excitement
Hmm.
of experiencing it, even on a video 20 plus years later.
Could you do a bit with that? Could you do a sort of, I don't know, because obviously we've lost Brian now, and there's loads of stuff obviously still around somewhere, and you've got a lot. I mean, do you think there's an opportunity to do a little bit more in terms of shooting some, putting some of
Oh,
this stuff
I
together?
don't need to shoot anything.
No,
It's all in my
it's,
vault.
it's all in the vault. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all there.
yeah. We'd love access to that. I mean, do you think sometime you'll do something
Well,
like
either
another?
if I win the lottery, yes.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Well, maybe we
or
can have the whip round.
or if some extremely wealthy Brian Wilson fan comes along and wants to be the executive producer of the film,
How much
then
would you need?
not that much actually,
Okay.
not
Well,
that
maybe.
much.
Well,
It's hopefully it'll happen in the not too distant future.